Mr. Barry Ivory and Mr. Michael Wolf. Mr. Wolf, I have a question for you. You have two checked, and do you wish to testify or not? Michael Wolf.
He asked me to hand his card. He had to go because he
Okay.
time, so he's not present. And
All right.
did Mr. Prokopi go first?
Do you have a card for me?
No, I do not. I do have a card from Barry Ivy, former representative, and
Yield first to my friend who he should.
well, I don't have a card. I don't have a card from him. So, Barry, why don't you come up? We do have a card from you. Let's get started. Yes, sir.
We go to the 3-minute rule.
That's what I was.
All right. Welcome back to the legislature, Mr. Ivory.
Yes, sir.
You may proceed.
Thank you,
Also,
members.
before you do, we also have Bert Callis, I think it is, Callis, from the West Baton Rouge our Republican Party in support, do not wish to speak. Thanks for coming, sir. Please proceed.
Okay. So, I am Barry Ivy. Some of you may know me. I appreciate your time and attention, and I would like to ask that each one of you distinguished individuals, please remember that I'm and treat me like a citizen and not Representative Barry Ivy. So I've got over 25, 30 hours in preparation in dissecting this bill. And my comments are not meant to impugn intentions from the author of the bill. Obviously, creating legislation is a process, many stakeholders involved. And as Ms. Emerson, or Representative Emerson stated earlier, she's tried to make everybody happy, and that can be an impossible task sometimes. So I appreciate her diligent efforts in this on this bill. I want to first state that this bill is being introduced in an extremely compressed, extremely compressed time constraints in this special session. This piece of legislation, in my opinion, is of a most significant and consequential nature. It will absolutely reshape the direction of our state for better or worse. And what we're doing is we are forcing a bill that where the people of our state deserve a legitimate opportunity to participate, to understand what the bill's doing. We already had a substantive amendment set presented to this committee after the bill was introduced in this committee. I've been able to re-engross most of it, but not all of it. And if everyone hasn't taken the time to do that, well, then I don't think anyone can state with certainty what the bill actually does. I mean, people can say it, but I don't believe that what's been stated so far is actually supported by the amendment set itself. The subject of party primaries is an absolutely legitimate subject before this body, but I believe it deserves the proper time and attention that the people of the state are not being afforded right now. Governor Landry issued on January 12th an executive order that declared a statewide emergency for the weather. That executive order was to stand from the 14th, I believe, through the 17th, which is in the heart of this process. Like today would be the first day outside of that executive order where the general public could come and testify. And as demonstrated by the cards that were presented here, very few people have been able to attend or participate in a process that is it's the foundation of. It affects the foundation of how we choose to elect people to represent us in public office. Now, while the amendments that may be intended to, eliminate the legislature and a few others from the bill, I can't tell that it actually does that. The part that it removes is the one to advance the process starting in 20. Or whatever it was. So I'm not even sure that this bill actually takes out the legislature. I haven't done the last few, but anyway. So that's a great concern for me right there. There has been so many gross misrepresentations about this bill, about this subject matter. And I would like to provide some clarification on some of them. This bill goes beyond creating, everybody's been saying party primaries, party primaries. Well, there's such a thing called open party primaries and closed party primaries. This is a closed party primary bill. People say that, we have a jungle primary and we're just, outlier. Look, our state is an outlier state across the board in every arena, just about. But what we'll do is we'll take the pendulum of us being a jungle primary state and literally bring it 100 to the exact opposite extreme end of a closed party process. And I'll demonstrate that in just a second. So this bill goes beyond creating a closed party primary system. It will be the most restrictive electoral process in the nation, I guarantee you. The bill, and again, obviously the bill's been amended, but there's been multiple members state on the record that they preferred the bill as it was originally postured in this committee. And so there's some correlation, even though it may not technically affect legislative races, it still is the same impact. So fallacy number one, everyone can vote in the general election process. That's a quote from the author. It's been quoted by many supporters and proponents of this bill. Guess what? It's not true. Everybody's saying it's like, well, shouldn't the party, if I'm an R, shouldn't I be able to elect my, candidate of my choice? I mean, it sounds like it makes sense on face value, but here's what the reality says. And look, members, I have provided a packet of information for you if you care to look at some of the details. So again, I'm going to use the legislative, because I spent a lot of time putting this legislative race together as an example. So 69 this is in the 2023 primary, October 19, 2023 primary. 69 legislative seats ran without opposition. There were 35 seats where only R's, Republicans, registered for that seat. There were 12 legislative races where only Democrats registered for the race. And then there were 28 legislative races where either a combination of a D and R, or a R in another party, or a D in another party, or all three. So there were only 28 of those races that would have actually yielded a general election. And even when you add, and one of the gross defects was the fact that there was no second party primary, as was originally outlined in Act number 560 of the 2006 regular session, which the chairman authored the bill. It did have a second party primary, so it will require a majority vote to get in the primary. However, even if you had if there is ever a race where only one party participates, then if there's two candidates in that race, then guess what? In the first party primary election, it's over. There is no general election. And so statistically, contested races, there were 75 total. So that's 52% of all legislative seats had contested races. And then under the general, for a general election under HB 17, only 37% of the contested races would have went to a general election. But the people can participate in the process. There are opportunities at the general election, but there's nothing in this bill, in its original or its amended posture, that ensures people will be able to participate in the process. In an example that is relevant to the amended bill, the October 2019 primary, the state Supreme Court District 1 only had Republicans qualify for that race, 2 or 3. Guess what? Voters will be disenfranchised. They will never get to see a general election. They will never get to participate in the process. Major defects, recognize political parties. Now, one of the other items in your packet is actually a list of all of the candidates for the 2 congressional races that were ran under our closed party system. What you will see is that you've got people from the Libertarian Party, the Reform Party, Republican, Democrat parties. You have the Green Party represented here. This bill is so restrictive, and it cannot be so restrictive on accident. It has to be intentional. That we take, and again, if you look at the statutes that I have on a sheet right here, one with all the statutes, 441, we say political parties or recognized political parties are defined based on Title 18, Section 441, subsection C. Well, what is that? Well, that's this bizarre, you have to have 5% of a presidential election or 5% of a statewide election with a third party or one of the non-affiliated parties. That is an impossible threshold. It'll never happen. It will never happen. But we have B, 441B says if you've got 1,000 people, registered, blah, blah. So we have the independent party. Senator Miguez mentioned we have an independent party, except for, guess what? The independent party under this bill will not be able to participate in the party primaries because it doesn't meet the thresholds of 441 subsection C. So again, so now we're really going out of the way to disenfranchise voters, okay, and their ability to participate because these parties will never, it will only forever be an exclusive D versus R on the ballot. It is statistically impossible almost to actually have another third-party candidate introduced. But let's just say you met the threshold of getting 5% in a presidential primary or a presidential election or a statewide election. Well, guess what? Now you have to repeat that every 4 years. You have to have that happen at least once every 4 years for you to continue to be considered a recognized party. So we have a section of law that identifies recognized parties, except for we say, no, we're not going to really recognize you. Well, then what are they for? What are they for? And so, again, that's rhetorical. Thank you.
All right, let's start wrapping it up, Mr. Representative.
Okay. So other major issues, the nominee petition. So the whole point of the nominee petition process, which is outlined in 465, that process has only ever existed as an alternative means of qualifying, because who would rather spend $500 to qualify versus going to have to get 500 or 1,000 signatures? The only reason this section exists is to give individuals who want to run for office, who do not have the financial means, a means to do that. That's what it's for. However, in this bill, very differently to the chairman's original closed party primary bill, where that allowed for all of the recognized parties, this is a full list, to simply qualify all the same way. But now we say you can only get nominated through a petition. But it gets worse because the nominee petitions, as it exists in current law and will apply to every other office, says you can go get a signature from any voter. But now we're saying 2/3 of the voters that you now have to go get 500 signatures, 400 signatures, or 1,000 or whatever it is. But guess what? We're going to take away 2/3 of the voting base. So now you have to literally hunt down every single voter that is on that exclusive limited list and get them to sign off for you just so you can run for office. It is an impossible standard. Winning by a plurality, this bill allows for winning by a plurality. Even with the amended form, even with the second party primary, it's a smokescreen because, again, if you had 5 people in one party and one person gets the majority vote, it's over. There's your primary, general, it's all done. And the voters get it disenfranchised. So with that, members, this debate needs to happen, but it would be wrong to pass this piece of legislation this special session. It would be wrong. And I believe the voters, if you look at the last the last election cycle that we were all, or I say that I lost on, that y'all obviously won on, I'm sorry, I'm looking for the.
All right.
So there was only 36-point-something% participation in the general in the primary, and 23-point-something% of participation in the runoff. And this bill is supposed to make all the people, that 1/3 of the registered voters, come out and vote in the general. No, it won't. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so very much. And there, Senator Carter for a question.
Thank you. More than a question, more of a comment. We all had the pleasure, well, I think everybody up here except for one or two persons had the pleasure of serving with you. And I just want to thank you for a moment of personal privilege to thank you for your continued advocacy on behalf of the people of this state. I think you served well when you were in this body, and I'm so glad that we still have. Is not your twin, right? This is.
It is me. I don't think he can deliver this presentation.
And I certainly want to acknowledge the good work that you're doing in bringing these important issues. And I certainly am paying attention to the part where you talked about the abilities for independent or unaffiliated voters that petition process and the constitutional concerns, the voting rights concerns about that piece. But I just want to make certain that I acknowledge you for not just serving well, but continue to be an advocate as a private citizen. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Representative, for coming. The board is clear. We appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. And it's just Mr.
All right.